turn it over to Matt. Matt?
What? They're switching. Sorry.
Hi, my name's Matt Collins. I was the incident commander for this incident. First of all, of course, our hearts and prayers go out to all of the victims and their families and our hospital staff as well. This has been a very, very difficult situation. We really have 3 phases of operations inside the hospital when this happens. We have an activation phase, and then we have operational periods. We've just completed operational period 1 and 2, and at 7:30 we went into the final phase, which is a recovery phase. And that's where we start putting everything back together, getting back to normal operations, and taking care of our staff, and to continue to take care of those patients that have just gone through this horrific situation. So with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. Of course, we're not able to release names or any information regarding the victims.
Sir, for the one victim who was transferred, the child that was under 2 years old, were they transferred to Lubbock? Do you know the status of that child?
I am not certain, but they were life-flighted to Lubbock or Children's in Dallas.
Do we know if the person who was deceased here was part of the original 5 that were reported dead?
My understanding, all I can tell you is we know that that person was involved in this incident and had a fatal gunshot wound.
What personally was going through, your staff mind, your mind when patients started coming in and calls started coming in? What was going through your guys' mind as a hospital staff?
Honestly, it's not a time for us to think a lot. We've done a lot of preparation for this day, and we work through these things in simulated situations several times a year. So everybody has a role that they fall into, and everybody fell into that role. And the hospital and all of the staff performed admirably, but ultimately we're here to serve those victims and the families, so it's not really about us today.
I believe earlier the CEO mentioned that you have an area specifically for families. I know you're under lockdown right now, but is that area still open to families who are trying to get into the hospital?
We do. Of course, this happens when all of the media is released and social media reports. People come to the hospital seeking reports on their loved ones. So we have a location inside the hospital where we congregated all of those families, and we had a senior nursing official work to reunify them and get as much information as we could to each and every family member. It's my understanding that that room is down to just a couple of families now, and that we've communicated with everybody that we can.
Are there any streets that are going to be blocked off or closed down to funnel traffic through, or have things died down?
We're going to keep the hospital into a lockdown situation until approximately 10 p.m., just for staff comfort and safety. But the hospital is back to normal operations at this time.
So if you guys have been less prepared, how do you think the situation could have been different? It seems like that preparation made the difference.
It did make the difference. I can't tell you because we are prepared, but I think if we were not, we may not have had the same rapid response to the situation and the great outcomes that we had. I mean, we saved 12 people today.
Can you confirm that the hospital is in need of more nurses to show up to help with victims, or?
We're using our own internal communication systems to make sure that we're adequately staffed for the unit for the evening. And yes, we are actually above normal staffing levels for this evening, going into the weekend. And the hospital is back to normal operations.
As of right now, do you guys need more nurses, or?
Right now, it's being reported to us that we're fully staffed. We activate what's called call trees, where managers start them, then they call one person after another, and we had the exact response that we would have ever hoped for in the situation, not only for nurses, but for doctors and all of the other support staff and police officers, security, everybody that we need to manage an incident like this.
And for people who are watching at home right now, I know that you mentioned your blood supplies are good. That's very good news. And then your supplies inside the hospital are doing well as well. But what can they do to help?
As our CEO said a few minutes ago, the community needs your prayers. The victims need your prayers. Families need your prayers. The hospital staff needs your prayers. What we call cash emergency supplies. So when there is a situation like this where we consume lots of supplies while giving the care, we're able to replenish them quickly enough to maintain operations.
I think that's pretty much everything I have, except for you said that y'all were moving into the third phase, which is kind of putting things back together and going back to normal. Is that because most of the patients are kind of getting in that stable, condition?
Those patients, there's 7 critical and 2 that are serious. So I can't give you an update on their exact status, but they are receiving the appropriate care at the level of care they're at.
I just have a quick question for the doctor, and we could just keep the mic on you. Have you responded to any of this situation before? And when you did start getting the calls that this was happening, as a doctor, what went through your mind at first?
First, I would emphasize that this is not about the doctor. It's not about us. It's about the family.